Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Imagine being awake for 3 days, then 5, then 7. Your eyes feel like they're filling with hot sand and the walls have started to breathe. Now imagine that you didn't choose this, you didn't consent to this, you just happened to be in the military. And the man in the white coat just handed you another vitamin. Welcome to MK Ultra Subproject 102. The agency didn't just want to pick me up, they wanted a chemical override for the human need for REM sleep. Subproject 102 was established to test the effects of various ergogenic drugs, specifically potent amphetamine derivatives, on the endurance and mental clarity of military personnel. A quote from a declassified MK Ultra project proposal. The goal is to identify compounds capable of maintaining a high level of operational efficiency in subjects deprived of sleep for periods exceeding 100 hours, with specific attention to the prevention of the fatigue-induced mental breakdown. End quote. The tests were often conducted on volunteers at military installations who were told they were participating in equipment endurance trials. In reality, they were being fed experimental stimulants to see how long it took for their brains to literally break. Subproject 102 researchers focused heavily on, I cannot pronounce this, so I'm going to have to spell it, DEXTRO, dextroamphetamine, and early versions of, I'm not sure how to pronounce this either, MODAFINIL. I think that's modafinil, searching for a clean high that didn't cause the jitter of standard speed. A quote from a field observer log dated 1961. Subject 42 has remained in a state of hypervigilance for 96 hours, displays signs of auditory hallucinations, insists that the ventilation fans are whispering his serial number, end quote. To keep the subject active, the agency forced them to perform repetitive tasks, like sorting thousands of tiny colored beads or solving complex mathematical equations, while being monitored by EEG machines to detect microsleeps. The CIA collaborated with the Army Chemical Center to develop time-release capsules that would slowly bleed stimulants into the subject's system, ensuring they couldn't even accidentally drift off. When the drugs alone weren't enough, Subproject 102 utilized sensory overload, blaring white noise and flashing strobe lights to shock the subjects back into a state of forced consciousness. One declassified report mentions the use of anti-hypnotics, chemicals designed to make the brain biologically incapable of entering a hypnotic or sleep state. By day 6 of the trials, many subjects began to exhibit acute psychosis, becoming violently paranoid and believing that their handlers were actually enemy interrogators. The budget for Subproject 102 included significant compensation funds, not for the soldiers, but for the military hospitals that had to treat the subjects for nervous exhaustion once the trials were over. The agency studied the rebound effect, the massive, often catatonic crash that followed the withdrawal of the drugs, finding that some subjects slept for over 48 hours straight once released. Subproject 102 also looked into nutritional supplements that could be added to the drug cocktail to prevent the body from consuming its own muscle tissue during the forced waking periods. A 1963 memo suggests that the CIA wanted to put these drugs in the C rations of frontline troops without their knowledge to ensure they stayed alert during surprise night attacks. The program was technically unsuccessful at creating a soldier who didn't need sleep, as the cognitive decline after 72 hours was so severe that the soldiers became useless for any task more complex than digging a hole. Subproject 102 documented the 1,000-yard stare in real time, recording how subjects would fixate on a single point on the wall for hours, their eyes wide and unblinking due to the intense chemical stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. Researchers experimented with polyphasic sleep schedules, attempting to see if drugging a soldier to wake up every 20 minutes for a burst of activity could replace a full night's rest without causing the brain to liquefy into madness. A quote from a declassified internal review. The subjects under Subproject 102 show a marked increase in irritability and a complete loss of the sense of time. One subject attempted to escape through a solid concrete wall, believing it was made out of cardboard, end quote. The agency utilized skin conductance tests to measure the stress levels of the sleep-deprived soldiers, finding that their bodies remained in a permanent fight-or-flight state, even when sitting perfectly still. One declassified 1962 log notes that the CIA attempted to use flash learning, projecting information on a screen at high speeds to see if a sleep-deprived brain was more susceptible to rapid data intake while in a state of hyperarousal. When you look at the psychiatric aftermath reports for Subproject 102, the black ink and redactions are everywhere. Again, that's psychiatric aftermath. Huge redactions. I feel so bad for the soldiers that this happened to, who had no idea what they were agreeing to. The heaviest redactions occur in the long-term section, the follow-up on the soldiers' lives years later. Speculation suggests these bars hide a high rate of suicide and permanent schizophrenia among the subjects. The theory is that the agency broke their brains and then simply deleted their files to avoid lawsuits. Speculation surrounds the 200-hour club. Conspiracy theorists believe the redacted sections here detail a secret subset of tests where soldiers were kept awake for over 8 days. The theory is that at this level of deprivation, the subjects began to exhibit savant-like abilities or precognitive flashes, and the CIA blacked it out to keep the super soldier secret. There is a persistent theory that the redactions hide the suicide protocol. Speculation holds that one soldier in a state of drug-induced psychosis managed to kill several handlers before being neutralized, and the black bars hide the names of the dead staff. Some speculate the redactions hide the genetic screening. The theory is that the CIA was looking for a specific gene that allows some people to survive on less sleep, and the bars hide the selective breeding program the agency proposed to the military. Conspiracy theorists often point to the off-site testing location section. The speculation is that the redactions here hide the fact that these drugs were tested on civilian prisoners in black sites where there were no military regulations to slow down the experiments. There's also speculation that the anti-sleep drugs were actually designed to stop the subjects from dreaming because the agency believed the dream dimension was a place where enemy psychics could influence American soldiers. The redactions hide the war in the dreamscape. There is significant speculation that the redacted files contain the VFR logs, visual frequency responses, where the CIA tried to use flashing lights to reset the brain's internal clock, and the black bars hide the resulting permanent blindness in some subjects. Common conspiracy theory suggests that the anti-sleep research was used to create the perfect assassin, someone who could wait in a sniper nest for a week without ever closing their eyes. The redactions hide the active deployments of these drugged killers. Some researchers speculate that the black bars hide the interagency conflict. The theory is that the FBI caught the CIA drugging soldiers, and the redactions hide the hush money paid to J. Edgar Hoover to keep the program out of the newspapers. There is a theory that the redactions hide the animal control phase, where the CIA used these same drugs on guard dogs to create eternal sentries that eventually went rabid and killed their own trainers. Some even speculate that the dormouse hibernation research and the Subject 102 waking research were meant to be used together, a pulse protocol where a soldier would be frozen for a month and then supercharged for a week. The redactions hide the human hardware failures of this theory. There is speculation that the anti-sleep redactions cover the use of electroconvulsive shocks used as punishment for subjects who attempted to close their eyes during the late-stage hours of the trial. Some theorists speculate that the black bars hide the total personality erasure reports, where the lack of sleep combined with the drugs caused subjects to forget their own names, and the CIA used the opportunity to attempt to reprogram them with fake identities. A persistent conspiracy theory holds that the redactions in the chemical disposal section hide the fact that the experimental drugs were dumped into the water supply of a nearby military housing area to see the effects on family units in a high-stress environment. There's speculation that the Endless Watch files hide a collective psychosis incident where all the subjects in a single ward began screaming the same phrase in unison, and the redactions cover the paranormal investigation that followed. Some even speculate that the black bars hide the success rates of a specific drug that worked too well, creating a subject who hasn't slept for decades and is currently being kept in a secret underground facility as a living computer. Was Subproject 102 a success? In terms of creating a sleep-free human, a total failure. Biology eventually wins, but in terms of pharmacological intelligence, it was a ruthless success. It gave the agency the blueprints for modern stimulants and a deep understanding of how to use sleep deprivation as a tool of interrogation. A quote from the CIA Office of Scientific Intelligence: "The limit of human endurance is not the body, but the mind's ability to distinguish reality from hallucination once the restorative functions of sleep are removed." End quote. The Endless Watch might have ended, but its wait continues with operational breakthroughs. Modern stimulants, the research into anti-fatigue compounds paved the way for the narcolepsy medications used today. Enhanced interrogation, the agency's findings on when a mind breaks from lack of sleep became a foundational part of their advanced interrogation manuals. Circadian rhythms, Subproject 102 provided early data on how to manipulate the body's internal clock, which is now used for everything from jet lag cures to shift work optimization. And cognitive testing. The repetitive task designed to measure fatigue led to the development of the standardized cognitive test used by the military today to screen for battle readiness. MK Ultra Subproject 102 is a reminder that the agency doesn't just want to control your thoughts, they want to control your very biology. They wanted to kill the blink so they could watch the world without it ever turning away. Thanks for listening. Next time, we're going to examine the Soviet V effect. The agency received a terrifying report. The Russians had found a way to make people hear microwaves. No wires, no speakers, just a beam of energy that puts a voice directly into your skull. We'll look at the CIA's frantic race to understand pulse-modulated hearing and the birth of the voice-to-skull nightmare. Join us for the microwave whisper. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.